Poštovani rektore univerziteta, gospodine Ćiroviću, poštovani profesore Abdukiću sa Dambi univerziteta, poštovani profesore Muhammed Al-Sadir iz Međunarodnog fonda, poštovani gosti iz Rijaseta Islamske zajednice Bosne i Hercegovine, Hafize Zajmoviću, gospodine Čolakoviću, gospodine Sakiću, poštovani zaslaniče BVI banke i Internacionalnog univerzitetu u Sarajevu, doktore Meškoviću, poštovani prorektori, uvaženi muftija Kujeviću, dekana Omeroviću, dragi rukovodioci institucija Islamske zajednice u Srbiji, studenti, privrednici, Esselamu alaikum i dobrodošli na konferenciju o islamskoj ekonomiji i finansijama. Prvoj konferenciji na ovom nivou koju organizujemo u Novom Pazaru i generalno u Srbiji. Sama ideja o ovoj konferenciji rodila se u februaru, kada smo na simpozijumu o islamskom bankarstvu koji je organiziran od strane Al-Baraka banke, ja, profesor Abdukić, profesor Edip Smolov, i nažalost nije sa nama danas ovdje zbog svojih obaveza u Saudijskoj Arabiji, razgovarali o tome da organizujemo ljetnu školu u Novom Pazaru za naše studente. Kasnije smo to unaprijedili u ideju da organizujemo preduzetnički kamp ili intenzivne radionice, a onda smo došli na ideju da organizujemo i konferenciju. Jako mi je drago što danas imamo goste iz Velike Britanije, iz Bosne i Hercegovine, a zaboravio sam pozdraviti mog prijatelja Anasa Prentića koji je danas ovdje ispred Linter kompanije koja je osnovana u Dubaju. Novi Pazar polako postaje centar islamskih finansija i ja ću završiti sa jednom kratkom anegdotom koju sam imao sa doktorom Meškovićem kada sam ga pozvao na ovu konferenciju. On je kazao da zašto ga ne organizujemo u Sarajevu. Iako je Sarajevo naš duhovni centar, meni je jako drago što smo ovaj put rasteretili Sarajevo što se tiče ove konferencije i nadam se da će Novi Pazar u budućnosti imati značajniju ulogu u razvoju islamskih finansija, a sa muftijom doktorom Ludićem smo već razgovarali o tome da se osnuje centar za razvoj islamskih finansija koji će raditi na tome da se ova tema aktualizira u Sandžaku. Svakako sam spomenuo da smo razgovarali o osnivanju centra za razvoj islamskih finansija i da ste vi izrazili želju da ova oblast bude prisutna i da se razvija kroz islamsku zajednicu, te vas pozivam da održite govor kojim ćemo faktički i otvoriti konferenciju.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Poštovani učesnici ove međunarodne konferencije, dame i gospode, braćo i sestre, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Počešćen sam da danas nekoga koga možete smatrati jednim od vas bude dio ovog projekta čiji je organizator Internacionalni univerzitet u Novom Pazaru zajedno sa Međunarodnom bankovskom fondacijom i univerzitetom u Dambi. Svakako da je pravo mjesto, ja hoću da kažem pravo vrijeme i održavanje ove konferencije i mjesto gdje se to dešava. A posebno data tema ili krovna tema te ovi učesnici sa Balkana i šire rekli bi kod nas naše nane, nije što je moje, ali imam predca. I nije što je naše, ali jeste pravo mjesto gdje se slobodna misao može razvijeti. I nije slučajno da na ovu temu govorimo baš ovdje na ovom univerzitetu, gdje je sultan Mehmed Fatih, kada je htio oslobađati Bosnu, ovdje udario prvi vakuf. Onima koji su po prvi put ovdje, treba da znaju da kada je sultan Mehmed Fatih spavao u Novopazarskoj banji, on je prošao ovdje blizu nas, tamo negdje gdje je studentska služba ovog univerziteta, i sa svojim kočijama je on tako malo napravio koroliša. Znate, Turci kad prođu moraju pomalo gururete da naprave. Kao pravedan vladar, on je raspitao se čije je ovo zemljište i od kršćanina je tad, odnosno Bogumila, on je otkupio to, platio, nadoknadio i uvakufio. Da vakuf nikad ne može izgubiti svojstvo, svoj status, govori taj podatak. Kada smo prije 22 godine odlučili se da osnujemo internacionalni univerzitet i da bude on vakuf u potrazi za dokumentima, saznali smo da jedan dio zemljišta na kome leži ova zgrada je vakufsko dobro. Trebalo je da prođe desetine i desetine godina i da, evo, iskren njegov nijet ispliva i danas u cijelini tom dijelu vakufa je i ostatak ovoga što ovdje ima. Zato budite ubijeđeni da ova sadaka tuđarije, ovo vakufsko dobro, ono će ako Bog da biti madamet iz semavati u atard, sve dotle dok postoje nebesa i zemlje. I zato je sudbina ovog univerziteta zagarantirana, ako Bog da inšala, dok je svijeta i vijeka, jer je na zdravim temeljima nastao. Samo ono što nastane na zdravim temeljima, ono je duga vijeka. I ova šaka ljudi predvođeni rektorom univerziteta, svim njegovim saradnicima, posebno učenicima, studentima, oni su čudo. Ne postoje više mudžize, a ove naše vodunjalučke, one i postoje. I ovo je jedno od čuda kako se opstalo i kako ovim silnim vjetrovima koji su nas sa svih strana udarali, mi opstasmo. Ono što je li već hila, rad Božjeg razluka urađeno, ono mora i opstati. Evo dobre prilike i našoj braći iz International Vakf Foundation sa našom vakufskom direkcijom da i oni budu dio ovih naših velikih vakufskih projekata, jer je ovaj kraj i ovaj narod opstao zbog šehidske krvi i zbog vakufskih dobara. Sutra je 4. septembar, dan sjećanja na hadžet, na ime prije 70 tačno godina, 44. na 45. godinu, tu se desio masovni zločin gdje je preko 1700 viđenih muslimana prijekim sudom strijeljano i po noći su ukopavani. Mi smo u zajednici taj dan u takvinu islamske zajednice proglasili kao dan sjećanja šehida na Hadžetu. I tamo se otelo sve što se oteti moglo. Jedan dio smo zaštitili i na tom parčetu zemlje mi svake godine proučimo Jasin i dobu. To je kultura sjećanja. Ne obožavamo mi mjesta, mi Allahu Đelešanu robujemo, ali smo u obavezi da kao kulturnu manifestaciju iz godine u godinu obilježimo. Žao mi je zbog nekih umova, zamračenih umova, koji kad dođe vrijeme pred taj četvrti počnu pisat da je to novotarija i tako redom. Nekoliko desetina pisama sam čitao iz tog procesa gdje se velikim Allahom kunu da za ništa nisu krivi, kao i što nisu bili, ali su ubijeni i zakopani. I mi nećemo zaboraviti to što se desilo, te vas pozivam da sutra budete tu, braćo, da zajedno proučimo dobu i da se prisjetimo tih naših koji su nedužno ubijeni. Dakle, šehidska krv i vakufska dobra. Ovaj kraj je opstao zahvaljujući našim vakifima iz prethodnih vremena, jer su naši prethodnici utrkivali se ko će biti veći vakif. I Novi Pazar je vakufski grad, jer je njegov osnivač Isa Isaković, kao i Sarajeva i Skoplja. I prvo što je napravio Isa Bek je bila džamija u centru grada, gdje je danas fakultet za islamske studije i škola, Sibjan Mekteb. Sibjan Mektebi su bili jako dobro organizirani i oni su u to vrijeme imali univerzitet, današnji sistem obrazovanja mnogih univerziteta, jer je svaki Sibjan Mekteb imao profesora i asistenta, muallima i kalfu ili muderis evel na muderis thani. U tim mektebima je halka sistem funkcionisao, a to su danas radionice i kružoci na američkim i evropskim univerzitetima. Zato se uvijek vraćam na Darul Erkame, prvu školu iz vremena pejgambera sallallahu alejhi ve sellem i prvi vakuf Ibrahim pejgambera alejhi salatu wasalam Čabu, da ono što vam je majka pripremila nemojte nikad omalovažavati, jer ničiju majku ne prezirite, ali ono što vam je majka spremila je najbolje na svijetu. I zato je ovaj univerzitet bolji od svih drugih univerziteta, jer sam svjestan kroz šta smo prolazili i koje smo poteškoće imali. Našoj generaciji je pripala čast da mi od 17 džamija u Novom Pazaru, koliko smo imali, danas naslijedili ili zatekli 90. godina, danas imamo 71. I vakufski obrazovni sistem u okviru mešihata od obdaništa do univerziteta. Ti vakufi su najbolja garancija i zalog kod Allaha Đelešanu za opstanak jednog naroda. Volio bi da svako od nas pojedinačno razmišlja šta sam ja uradio na unapređenju vakufa. I sutra, kad se budem sreo sa stvoriteljem u kaburu, pa me bude pitao šta si uradio za ummet pejgambera, da imam sa čime pred njim da iziđem. Vakuf ili zadužbina, muslimani ili nemuslimani, svako je dužan da nešto ostavi iza sebe. Ova konferencija Islamska-etička ekonomija i finansije implementacija teorije i prakse na Balkanu je dobar vjetar u leđa i pokazatelj da to može samo da se odvija ovdje na ovom univerzitetu. I mi ćemo, ako Bog da, u zajednici razmisliti, jer imamo i prijedloge od našeg hafiza Zogića, dakle da i mi se ozbiljnije pozabavimo ovim stvarima. Dosad smo radili na kvantitetu, sad ćemo se maksimalno posvetiti kvalitetu. Vrlo su ovdje interesantni izlagači, ne mogu da ne spomenem našeg hafiza Zajmovića, koji je od Bakuske direkcije napravio čudo. Svjedočim vam to ovdje kao neko ko je svjedok. Evo i mi tim koracima, zajedno sa našom Bakuskom direkcijom na čelu sa hafizom Abdurrahmanom, pokušavamo da ih kopiramo, jer samo uz stabilne vakufe jedan narod može računati na opstanak i na sigurniju budućnost. Ostali smo na ovim prostorima i opstali zahvaljujući vakuskim dobrima, neka znate. I ostaće generacije iza nas u onoj mjeri koliko budemo ostavili vakufa. Zahvalan sam rektoru univerziteta, svim njegovim saradnicima, predsjedniku savjeta univerziteta, i nismo mogli, dr. Rešad Efendi, nismo mogli da budemo na početku jer smo imali posjetu premijera. Dobre smo stvari započeli. Neka znate, braćo, stvari u narednom periodu će ići u našu korist. Dosta smo mi tereta nosili, nismo mi više djeca sa 14 ili 15 godina, mi imamo 22 godine, nikad mlađi, nikad ljepši, nikad pripsaniji i nikad jači. Ali još pritom i mudri, da znate, i mudri. Nismo samo plahoviti, već i mudri. Zato izvinjavam se što nismo mogli da prisustvujemo na početku. Ja sam vama htio da desim, ne da vam pričam na zadetu temu, jer vi to bolje znate. A ja bolje znam da desim. I zato malo sam izišao iz ovih klišeja konferencijskih, da vam ne bi bilo dosadno, da ne bi ja napisao nešto pa da pročitam, nego da ja vama nešto kažem, pa vi uzmite šta vam bude valjalo, a sve vam je dobro da znate. Zato sam zahvalan u ime Islamske zajednice, počešćen, čestitam i želim da se svi evo lijepo osjećate i ovome drugome dijelu konferencije. Neke barekolcu i evo odmah koji vazi već ova konferencija je otvorena od samog početka. Ali ovo je lijepo da se otvara pri kraju, vidite, to je predstavno.
Zahvaljujem se uvaženom muftiji doktoru Dudiću na veoma inspirativnom govoru. Tim pozivam rektora univerziteta, profesora doktora Suada Bećirovića, da nam se obrati na temu Understanding the Pivotal Differences between Islamic and Conventional Finance, odnosno razumijevanje osnovnih razlika između islamskih i konvencionalnih financija. Rektore, Bulj.
Uvaženi gosti, uvaženi profesor Aktoviću, uvaženi kolega Zambazir, uvaženi doktore Zajmoviću, dr. Meškoviću, gospodine Sokiću i sve ostali, uvaženi Hafize Kujević, muftija, uvaženi dekane Omeroviću, uvaženi koleginice i kolege, čast mi što vas mogu poslovaniti, pozdraviti povodom ovakve prve konferencije na našem univerzitetu, gdje ćemo nakratko tretirati danas, ako Bog da, pitanje islamske moralne ekonomije, odnosno generalno pitanje islamske ekonomije. Prije svega, naravno, sve što podrazumijeva ekonomija različite oblasti, pa itekako, naravno, tu spada i financije, odnosno pitanje novca. S obzirom da je i konferencija međunarodnog tipa, naravno ja ću svoje izlaganje održati na našem jeziku. Ja sam pokušao tokom prezentaciju da imam jedan slajd koji će da ga podijelim na dva dijela, to jest da imam na engleskom jeziku i na našem jeziku, da radi lakše način. Pitanje islamske ekonomije, odnosno prije svega islamske financije, je tematika sa kojom se bavim već nekih 20 godina. I na ovom našem univerzitetu sam pisao i svoj magistarski rad iz oblasti islamskog financijskog sistema, kao i doktorsku disertaciju iz oblasti kamate, odnosno analize efekata kamate na ekonomiju, bilo na engleskom jeziku, i nekih rezultata koji su mi tada došao i koji sad radimo sa studentima iz različitih predmeta kada radimo neku komparaciju sa konvencionalnom klasičnim kapitalističkim sistemom, naravno želimo nakratko ukazati. S obzirom da smo mi planirali nekih 15 minuta za uvodna izlaganja, a 15 minuta ne može se baš mnogo kazati, ali svakako ćemo prije svega ukazati i želite pokrenuti određenu diskusiju na određenim temama. Generalno, kada govorimo o islamskoj ekonomiji, govori se o nekoj modernoj, mladoj nauci. Naravno, islamska ekonomija postoji i od dana objavljivanja Korana i od prakse poslanika s.a.v. preko sunneta, tako da nije to postoji od samog islama, svakako, ali naravno ekonomija je takva da mora da se prilagodi određenim vremenskim okvirima, to jest u suštini sve što je prihvatljeno, odnosno što ne zadržava određene zabranjene elemente, svakako i sad prihvatljivo sa islamskog stanovišta. Kada gledamo trend razvoja islamske ekonomije, generalno po meni možemo da imamo tri pravca koji se nazva ignorisanje, imitacija ili inovacija. Ignorisanje u smislu ima modernističkih trendova koji kažu da uopšte ne postoji islamska ekonomija, nego da postoji nešto nastojanje da se imitiraju klasične konvencionalne teorije. Prije svega u 20. vijeku su se većina islamskih država opredijelili za kapitalistički sistem i za socijalistički sistem, manje više ignorisajući islamska načela. I danas imamo pojedine u teoriji koji kažu da ne postoji klasična islamska ekonomija, nego to pitanje treba više slijediti neke pravce klasične ekonomije. Također imamo neki trend imitacije gdje se u suštini neki pokušaj da se implementiraju određene elemente islamske ekonomije, ali ipak suština često je ista kao konvencionalna ekonomija iz prije svega dva razloga, što pod jedan, prije svega kada govorimo o financijama, imamo zakone, pravni okvir koji je pisan, koji je razvijen prema klasičnim načelima, pa morate da se prilagodite. I vrlo često imate situaciju da morate da slijedite ono što je zakonom propisano, pa većina korisnika primjer radi određenih islamskih financijskih proizvoda se zapita pa šta je sad razlika između ovog kredita, klasičnog banaka i neke islamske, da kažemo, ponude. Ili imamo inovaciju u smislu, inovaciju da moramo nositi temelja islama da vidimo određena nova rješenja raditi. Generalno sam želim u ovom radu kratko istaknuti tri osnovne razlike, prije svega u oblasti islamskih financija. Financija zato što je tu po meni glavna razlika, naravno postoji drugim oblastima, ali ovdje želim samo određene, da ukažem na određene fundamentalne glavne razlike koje sam ovdje istakao prije svega što tiče etičkih ekonomije, pitanje kamate i pitanje dolara, odnosno prekomjernog rizika. Pitanje etike u suštini ću samo nakratko da načnem, a gledajući publiku ima mnogo više ljudi od prisutnih koji znaju mnogo više govoriti i objasniti na tu temu od mene, ali svakako etičke norme koje su sa aspekta, kada gledam ja kao ekonomista koji uče konvencionalnu ekonomiju, je oblast koja se zanemaruje. Kada gledamo i Adam Smitha kao otac klasičnog kapitalizma, kada gledamo njegova prva djela su bili iz oblasti morala u ekonomiji. Tek kasnije se on preorientisao malo neki mainstream, to jeste više neka blagostanje naroda kada je pisao, gdje se on malo promijenio i stakao individualni lični interes. Tako da treba prije svega istaknuti taj moralni aspekt, a prije svega stavio sam osobu koja vjeruje, koja prije svega vjeruje u Boga, ima sigurno više moralne vrijednosti i sigurno je pouzdaniji poslovni partner. Jer koliko imamo osobu koja ne drži do strogih principa, uvijek će biti sliče ugovornih obaveza i slično fleksibilna. Tako da stavna svijest u postojanju obavezi da ćemo odgovarati za svoje djela, svakako čini prije svega veći stepen povjerenja, pa ćemo imati bolje radove, odnosno bolje odnose ekonomske prirode, što je svako i Max Weber u svojim djelima kada je analizirao protestantizam i njegov utjecaj na razvoj kapitalizma. Tu prije svega možemo da vidimo da i po njemu prije svega određena protestantska načela su svakako pomogli razvoju kapitalizma. To sam samo kratko, zbog vremena. Ono što je svakako bitno, što želim ovdje ukazati, jeste u suštini zadnje kamate, o čemu većina ljudi, prije svega muslimana, zna, ali u suštini ne poznaje detaljnije pravila. I vrlo često imamo ovdje problem u definicijama, što kamata, ono što je zakonom propisano, odnosno konvencionalnim financijama, nije ona kamata koja je i u šerijatu ista. Znači, su različite definicije, tako da neophodno je da gledamo u suštini, da se vratimo back to the roots, što bi rekli Englezi, to jest da vratimo se korijenima i gledamo šta je u suštini zabrana kamata. Naravno, ovdje imamo muftije, imamo šerijatske pravnike, ja ne želim analizirati pravne norme, nego gledati sa aspekta ekonomije i aplikacije, gdje u suštini se ističe, kao što znamo da se ističe u hadisu, da posmisla se ističe 6 različitih proizvoda, znači zlato, srebro, pšenica, datule, so i ječam, tako da koji se ne smiju razmijeniti u različitim količinama koliko se radi o istovjetnom proizvodu. To jest koliko imamo, primjer radi, da govorimo o današnjim terminima, da imamo, primjer radi, želimo sitnimo 100 eura, u tom slučaju vrijednost mora da bude ista. To jest 100 eura sitno za 100 eura krupno. Sad naravno ne želim objasniti samo pravilo, nego ovdje želim sa ekonomskog aspekta da razmišljamo. Kada uzmemo danas primjer radi kredit od 100.000 eura, moramo da vratimo 120.000 eura. Šta je osnovna implikacija, od čega moramo da vratimo veći iznos iz toga što smo uzeli? Kada primjer radi želim da pravim neki kolač, želim da pozajmimo kilogram šećera. U tom slučaju niko nam traži normalno 2 kg da mu vratimo, nego kilo za kilo, isto za isto. A zašto onda u novcu traži se uvijek više? To je suštine pitanje. Isto tako primjer radi kada kasnimo sa otplatom bilo koje obaveze, imamo zatezne kamate. Zašto nam onda platimo zateznu kamatu? Ukoliko želimo nekome da pomognemo koji u financijskoj krizi, a povećavamo dug, mi mu još otežavamo. To je isto kao kad imamo nekog ovisnika od psihoaktivnih supstanci, pa umjesto da smanji dozu, mi mu povećavamo. Tako da u suštini teramo ga propasti. I tako da isto kada imamo zatezne kamate, pametnije, logičnije bi bilo da tražimo kao neki stečajni upravnik, koliko ne zna s novcem, da mu neko pomogne da izađe iz dugova. Znači, ekonomska logika tu nije baš, nego više stvaranje većeg stepena ovisnosti. Isto tako, koliko neko je pozajmio drugoj strani 100.000 eura, pa ispada da zajmodavcu treba hitno novac, a dužnik kaže, ok, sad ću ti vratiti novac, ali samo 90.000 eura. Opet, znači, druga strana koristi svoju moć, svoj položaj. Jedna vrsta ucene. Po mom shvatanju, a svakako to je predmet za diskusiju danas ako voda i nadam se da će biti diskusija, stava pravilo oko razmene jest u suštini da li neko može zloupotrijebiti svoj ekonomski položaj. Da li može ocijeniti drugu stranu. Kada imamo bilo koji ugovor, želim da kupimo neko zemljište, pravimo neki put, pa ima neko taj ključni zemljište da bi pravi primjer neki put ili autoput, od njega zavisi, a on ocenuje, a to je isto zloupotreba, neka zloupotreba. Znači, u tom slučaju, a s obzirom da se vratimo, šta je predmet interesovanja? Predmet interesovanja jeste novac. Zašto je novac bitan? Bitan zato što, kako bi Al-Gazali u svom delu Ibn rekao, po svom obliku novac ne predstavlja ništa, ali u svom značaju on predstavlja bilo šta, a stvar koja ima isti odnos u različitostima i ukoliko ne bude malo poseban oblik, njen koristi posebno. Malo, kada gledamo Al-Gazali, po meni u svom delu na nekih 6-7 stranica bolje od bilo kojeg monetarnog teoretičara savremenog objašnjava fenomen novca. Zašto? Kada pažljivo opet čitamo, možemo da vidimo da je odnos novca po definiciji da možemo da kupimo bilo šta. Svakome je potreban novac. Mi smo izmislili i razvili novac zbog toga što imamo, kad imamo trampu, upitno je kad neko ima kompjuter, neko ima mikrofon, da ćemo se naći, da imamo proizvod koji je potreban. Zbog toga smo definisali novac kao opšte sredstvo razmene da bi mogli da kupujemo bilo šta. Znači, odnos novca prema bilo kojem proizvodu je isti. Znači, ima tu moć kupovine. Kupovna moć, termin koji trebamo koristimo. S druge strane, koliko neko od trgovaca, proizvođača nudi svoj proizvod, nema tu istu ravnu. Zašto? Zato što nije izvesno da će uopšte prodavati svoj proizvod. Tako da onaj ko posjeduje novac, ima automatski određenu prednost nad svim ostalima. I na taj način, onaj koji posjeduje novac može zloupotrijebiti svoj položaj. I time, koliko on gomila novac, u tom slučaju, on, kako bi ga zvali, rekao sam na stavku, čini nepravdu prema ostalim, jer bi to bila isto kao kada bi se zatvorio vladar ili poštar, to je neka javna funkcija koja bi se privatizirala. Drugim riječima, koliko ne koristimo novac, nego gomilamo, pravimo automatski određeni problem. Problem koji izgleda u tome, jer svi ovdje prisutni ekonomisti znaju da smo svi učili da su dvije osnovne funkcije novca. Sredstvo razmene i sredstvo čuvanja vrijednosti. Ali novac može samo svoju funkciju preuzeti ukoliko je aktivno, koliko ide iz ruke u ruku, kako se, to jeste, što bi se reklo moderno spot transakcije, znači koliko se aktivno koristi. Koliko se gomila, u tom slučaju više on nema svoju funkciju i onaj koji ima novac može svakako ucenjivati drugu stranu. Tako da, mi smo problem u tome što, primjer, radi dužnik, je često, što bi se istaklo šta je problem kamate, ok, dužnik je siromašan, a zajmodavac je bogat. Ne radi se o tome. Radi se o tome da i velike države, velike kompanije se zadužuju. Nego u suštini se radi o tome da neko ko ima novac može da traži kamatu, to je da ucenjuje i upotrebi svoj položaj. Na kraju, u suštini samo kratko, pošto već vrijeme polako ističe, zbog toga želimo u suštini i kada analiziramo, kada podučavamo studente, uvijek želimo i malo mi samo kritično da gledamo šta podučavamo naše studente, prije svega ekonomije. Najviše se koristi u suštini metod neto sadašnje vrijednosti, net present value, i kad gledamo ovaj obrazac, osim što možda veliki broj ljudi ima neki stav od matematičkih formula, želimo u suštini samo da razmislimo, ok, šta se krije za toga, šta je teorijski temelj ovog obrazca. Osnovni temelj jeste da diskontiramo, to jeste da dobijemo sadašnju vrijednost, da dijelimo naše novčane tokove na današnji dan, pretpostavljajući da ćemo svaki tok koji ranije dobijemo opet reinvestirati, opet uložiti za istu kamatnu stopu. To je dijeljenje ovdje, tu se ima T. Stepenovanje T označava broj godina. I time, ukoliko prva zamjerka jeste, ovdje se kaže da svaki novčani tok, svaki cash flow se ulaže opet na tržištu kapitala. Drugim riječima, ukoliko investicije ne zarađuje dovoljnu kamatnu stopu, internu stopu rentabilnosti, nećemo raditi. Znači, sad se postavlja pitanje, ukoliko nećemo uložiti nove mašine, fabrike, onda ćemo uložiti u tržištu kapitala, a koje to tržište kapitala će zaraditi tu stopu koja će nas zadovoljiti. Znači, neko mora da zaradi tu kamatnu stopu. Pitanje. A drugo pitanje jeste, po samoj definiciji obrasca jeste da je delenik, znači na samom početku manja vrijednost, 1 plus, odnosno 1,1 na 1 je manji iznos od 1,1 na kvadrat. Opet osnovna matematika. Tako što znači, sama formula koja je integrisana u dosta softvera, udžbenika, nas tera da što prije zarađujemo, da što prije iskoristimo naše resurse, ne gledajući na buduće generacije, nego ukoliko imamo investiciju koja može da 10 godina zaradi i nekako se može 100 godina koristiti, ako govorimo za zemljište, sam kamatni mehanizam nas tera da što prije koristimo to zemljište, što sa aspekta održivosti, zaštite životne sredine svakako nije održivo. I svakako ovo pitanje jeste, što smo već rekao, gdje će se taj veliki iznos novca ulagati. Na kraju, kada prenosimo ove neke ideje, koje sam rekao u suštini, na neki makroekonomski nivo, kada bi uporedili razvoj iznos štednje sa ponudom novca i bruto domaćeg proizvoda i gledali primjer radi neki razvoj, da se svaka štednja mora opet reinvestirati i radi razvoj bruto domaćeg proizvoda, ukoliko imamo situaciju da je stopa rasta bruto domaćeg proizvoda manja od prosječne kamatne stope, imamo posljedicu da udio izdataka za kamatu će sve više rasti u bruto domaćem proizvodu. Drugim riječima, privreda koja se uvijek ističe u svim zemljama mora GDP, bruto domaći proizvod da raste, što je logično primjer rada u našim zemljama koje nismo toliko razvijene, ali u razvijenim zemljama zašto mora 2, 3, 4% da raste? Mora zato što koliko je rast stope bruto domaćeg proizvoda manje prosječne kamatne stope, zato što je fiksiran i fiksni iznos, mora znači udio kamatnih prihoda u bruto domaćem proizvodu će biti sve veće i može se u krajnjem slučaju desiti da se sve više mora raditi za zajmodavce. Eto, samo ovdje, da ustaknemo čisto s aspekta malo matematike, nisam matematičar, eto, malo. Tako da kad gledamo kada se dupliraju, kada imamo efekt eksponencijalnog rasta. Znači, stavimo primjer radi novac, 100 eura radi 10 godina na kamatnu stopu od 1% primjer radi. Onda bi se taj iznos nakon 69,7 godina, tako da 70 godina duplirao. Ok, to je umereno, da kažem. Ako je primjer radi na 5% nakon 14 godina, što znači koliko primjer radi imamo rast bruto domaćeg proizvoda za prosječan rast 5 godina, nakon 14 godina on će se duplirati. Šta je sa resursima, šta je sa radnom snagom, šta je sa produktivnosti, znači mora sve da raste, sve više mora da se radi osim ako imamo neki ekonomski razvoj. I čak ukoliko imamo 10%, u tom slučaju bi se nakon 7 godina duplirao. Znači u tom slučaju pitanje održivosti prirode, odnosno ekonomije, sa jasnim posljedicama, kao što možemo danas vidjeti u samoj prirodi, da sam rast, eksponencijalni rast, nigde u prirodi nije održiv, pa ni u ekonomiji. Tako da, pošto imamo već 20 minuta, htio sam još nešto o prekomjernom riziku govoriti, ali to ću skočiti, pa ću staviti za diskusiju. U suštini zaključak jeste da u suštini moramo nastojati s aspekta dizajna islamskih financija, da nastojimo na pravednim realnim ugovorima koji nisu samo po formi, isto po klasičnim islamskim ugovorima, nego zaista gledaju interesnu stranu jedne i druge ugovorne strane, da istaknemo prije svega solidarnost, da ne budemo sebični, jer prije svega moramo da pratimo moralne standarde, jer na kraju krajeva suština islama, islamske ekonomije jeste da sve ono što radimo sa stepenom bogobojaznosti i dalje ćemo za sve odgovarati i da nije suština da imamo neke tehnike oko ugovora bez praćenja moralnih standarda. Hvala.
Zahvaljujem se uvaženom rektoru na izlaganju, što nam je objasnio koje su osnovne razlike između islamskih i konvencionalnih banaka, odnosno o tome kako funkcioniše kamata i zapravo da li su islamske banke ili islamske financije samo imitacija konvencionalnih. Nastavit ćemo sa profesorom doktorom Alijom Abdukićem, koji je direktor programa islamskih financija na školi biznisa, fakultetu biznisa pri univerzitetu Dandi. Iako se radi o jednom veoma skromnom čovjeku, ja moram istaći da se radi o svjetskom imenu kada govorimo o islamskim financijama, definitivno. On će govoriti na temu teoriziranja islamske političke i moralne ekonomije, osnove, principi i artikulacije. Profesor Abdukić, budu. Iako smo se dogovorili da nećemo politiku uključivati konferenciju, evo je u nastavu.
Unfortunately, I have to speak in English, so good morning everyone, and it's my honor to be in Novi Pazar after 23 years. This was the last time when I was here, and I'm really grateful to my friends, hosts, who enabled me to be here today with you. So the discourse or discussion about Islamic economics, Islamic political moral economy, I will try to explain you actually what does these terms means within the discourse. If I say Islamic economics, economics by default means that is a value-free science. So how can it be Islamic in itself then? It's a confusion that comes out. Therefore, we are using the classical political economy understanding that political in that sense means ethics, values that we are incorporating within the economic analysis. That's why it is Islamic political economy which defines the frame. And then, at the same time, frame is not enough because we need to find what comes inside of that frame. And that's why we call it substance. And hence the word of Islamic moral economy will come from there. That's why this is from where the title is coming. It's theoretizing Islamic political as a frame, moral as a substance, economy, and then what are the foundational principles and articulations within the discourse of Islamic economics. So that's the starting question. We are always trying to search for alternatives. We have around us neoclassical economics, before that we have Keynesian, before that we have Austrian, before that we have neoclassical, and then before that what did we have? Usually what is known for us in that historical development of trajectories, neoclassical economics or classical economics within us around 250 years. And then we ended up where we are now. Now, there are new way of bringing back political economy, and you're all aware probably about sustainable development and the new discourses that are emerging to solve the issues of humanities. Why we have solved the issues of infrastructure. I've been traveling yesterday from Bosnia, and I could see that what are the issues. Yes, I can see the strong development of the private sector, but then when it comes to the global issues and challenges that will come and face you, this is what we are looking as an alternative. What Islam as religion can give and offer to everyone else. And this is the whole discourse, whether we want to follow the Stoicism or Mariolism. Stoicism, I want to keep my internal balance and be satisfied, but I want to change. That's why we are more focusing that Islam needs to create change to others. It's not the own things that we are trying to hold as monopoly. So these are some of the answers that we are trying to explore, but within those answers, I just want to show you that this is not a standing alone, the discourse. There are many studies, as you can see, I just snapshot some of these in the Western world, that they are trying to see that the neoclassical way of life did not solve the fundamental issues of economic life of human beings, but also because you can see the poverty. Even in London, where I'm coming from, you will see people are sleeping on the streets. They don't have basic needs to buy the food. And if you go to the east, that is even worse. Hence the question is that, so how come we are 250 years in the business as economics, but even the economic matters have not been resolved. What about spiritual and others that we are looking for? So that's as a result, as you can see, these are some of the studies that are now emerging to try to challenge the discourse of modernity, and we'll talk about it, and the post-modernity perspective is coming that say, yes, we need to recognize the particularities of every society in order to respond to their needs. So what is the development and trajectory? Where we want to go with Islamic finance as a tool which is supposed to deliver the expectations of Islamic economic discourse? So the emergence is the 1940s. This is a time when most Muslim civilization being colonized, we were under the pressure of the Western societies, and then you are trying to gain your independence. But in that process, what will happen, that you are coming as independent nation states. Before that, your social formation was purely based on the discourse of Islam, which will define that. But then you have a modernity, which means universal values, and hence, what will be your relationship with the past, with the heritage? And that is very much what we call it ideology. So any kind of modern innovation, whether it's a school, universities, bank, we are trying to search its answer of existence in the past, whether it's a justified halal or it is not halal, it's haram. That is ideology. And in that process, you might become fundamentalist or traditionalist, or you might be secularist or modernist apologetic. But what we are calling here is post-modernity approach, that we need to recognize the needs of every society without importing the things from the other discourses. So 1940s is the Muslim nation states, Pakistan, India, and the independency, but then still they are seeking the meaning of Islamic values in the modern life. So how we'll have finance, how we'll have banks, insurances, and all other things that we are needed in the everyday life of discourse of existence. In that sense, the first bank which was emerged, it was in the mid-Gamma, it's in the village in Egypt. There was an enthusiastic who said, okay, they started in Germany and they realized there is okay, how we can organize the people, villagers, that they can save the money when they have a surpluses of the surpluses of the money, and then when they are struggling, when they need to buy the crops, they can actually use that pot and buy. So that's the basic idea. And they generally organize the banking system or intermediary perspective, and then when it succeeded, of course, Egyptian government closed it and they opened it, Nasser Social Bank. But that was experience which paved the way that it is possible, something classical, old, to be incorporated within the modern discourses so that we can share it with the world, that there is a possibility. Following that, we have Dubai Islamic Bank, which came later on, also Islamic Development Bank, and hence notation was each country one Islamic bank. But we moved away, and now we are entering into other avenues such as insurances, student loans, the pension funds, and so on. Islamic finance is not restricted within the banking sector, it is just small element. So that is the emergence part. Now these are just quick figures. What are the current situation based on the data of 2022? So we are now industry of $3 trillion US. Now that sounds huge number, but compared with the conventional industry, it doesn't mean much. So let's be realistic about it. Most of us will use the conventional bank as a payroll system, whereas investment and other avenues, we are not even part of that. This is also what are the domestic Islamic banking assets. As you can see, the number one is still Saudi Arabia, followed with Iran, which is the whole system is Islamized. Malaysia, which has a governmental approach or top-down approach to provide Islamic finance, UAE, and so on. But interestingly, you can see the UK as a Western is among top 10, which provides Islamic finance. And many Muslim country nations are still not part as well. You can see that even Turkey is, comparing with the size and the magnitude, is very relatively small in terms of what they are offering. Now, why is need for a change? Because there is a reality which we need to face. Now, this is following what the rector was talking about, the reality of the financial system and the interest base that we are facing and the growth that you need to keep up. But growth for what? where we are actually heading for. Now, there is studies showing what are the global GDP and comparing it with why it matters and what are the expectations. I will not talk about it, but it's mainly related to the climate change, because in order to grow, you need to utilize your resources. Now, there was a recently study we conducted on the water usage for the growth. So now, in order to keep the growth, let's say 5%, you need to use a certain amount of the water. Now, by 2030, EU will have a problem with drinkable water. So which also implies to us, in order to keep the growth, which can pay off the interest rate that is keeping growing. So this is just a small correlation. But another issue is that we endorse the Western way of life of individualism, and where we want to have a financial growth, but what does that mean for? The study which was conducted, and we are using here to show you that the concept of trust. So in Nigeria, Cameroon, Iraq, these are all developing countries, but the level of trust is quite high. If you stop the strangers and you ask something, you will most probably be responded and people will help you. Whereas France, Switzerland, South Korea, Belgium, Japan, highly developed countries financially, but there is no trust. So what kind of or nature of the life? So the development in which sense? Is development means only financial development or keeping the growth, or there is the implication of that? Or even further, if we are looking the development, you can see on the left side what are the birds left on the shore, or even turtles. But this is the result of keeping the growth and development. This is what left humans. It's extraordinary consumerism and the capitalism that we are endorsing. And hence, in the Western societies, probably you have seen this, there is dogs or any kind of animals, there is a race. And they will use the artificial things to move the animals to run to try to catch. But there is nothing to catch. So what growth you want to achieve? I want to have more money, I want to have another building, I want to have more, but for what purpose? So the meaning itself is being lost within the discourse. And then corporations are not people. This is another debate which I will skip this time. Another explanation is, most of you might be in the Mecca, and this is one of the controversial fallacy that we are always attacking our Saudi friend, the Zamzam Tower, place where we are supposed to be equal, even in terms of the religious accesses and things, but you are making the class differences among the people in the place where we are supposed to be equal. And this is one of the moral failures of Islamic finance in terms of the substance, or what we call it moral economy. And the question is, so what we want to achieve? What is the need Islamic finance that we want to introduce? If we are looking into capitalism, the right side guy gets everything, because he is the one who holds the capital, and hence he will dictate what the labor, what the land get it, or rent. Or if we are going to follow the equity, so if we are all equal, everyone will get the same share, that's not going to work, because the little guy will not see the game. And if you want to achieve the justice, then you have to give the little guy more. And this is why we have a redistribution mechanism of zakat and waqf in order to achieve that phenomenon. But from there, we are looking at something else. The reality is much worse than we even think. Equality doesn't work, equity, as you can see, is not there, but reality is much worse. As you can see that the capitals are dominant. 2% of people share the majority of the wealth, and hence we have huge inequalities. Study that was conducted last year took the most or major Muslim countries in terms of the Gini coefficient. Gini coefficient is a measurement of inequality. What is the highest level that somebody will receive the financial income, and the lowest one. So Lorentz curves will measure that. So from 0 to 1. So closer to 1 is an absolute inequality, closer to 0 is equality. Most of the Muslim countries is absolutely inequalities, like 92, 94%. Now, the question was whether Islamic finance in its own attempt, which is the new phenomena, whether they are decreasing the inequality. So we are introducing something new which has a purpose to create a redistributive justice. Hence, there are some debates and the critiques towards Islamic finance that they are not as efficient as they should be in that sense, because that is the main legitimacy of their existence. Now, another one what we are looking here is, as you can see, what we want to achieve. I don't know what I pressed, so I lost the screen. So Islamic moral economy as a new proposition is actually suggesting removing the barriers, actually, giving the access by providing the opportunity space within the different sectors. And that is whole idea, what does mean Islam? And we will use the Islamic axiom, which Rector also referred to some of them, Tawheed, Rububiyyah, Tazkiyah, which are the fundamental principles. I'm not referring here to fiqh. Fiqh is a law. It provides a judgment, something is acceptable or not acceptable. That is a law side. Fiqh is not analytical tools. And that was one of the really surprising that I find across some academic papers, even PhDs, that they will see, oh, this is the fiqh analysis. Fiqh that is not an analytical tool. Fiqh is a law. It provides the judgment. But economics provide you what is inside happening so that the fiqh can create a better judgment. So it is a tool of the fiqh. It's not vice versa. Fiqh cannot be subordinated to the economics. Economics is separate, fiqh is above. And that's why people confuse that. So that is something to keep in mind how it is achieved. Now, the other issue is what are the consequences of that? And this is the reality from the Wall Street protests which happened after the fall of the neoclassical perspective. Okay, let's bank the Muslim way. Now this American, whatever the lady, what is her notation? Is that, oh, we want to create so-called Sharia compliant alternatives, and hence, no, they are looking into the substance, political and moral economy, meaning which will create responses to the failures of existing neoclassical economics, create the balances in the macroeconomic simultaneously, and hence, as a consequence, we will have alternative system which we still did not make it. And therefore, finance in that perspective will, as it says in the Switzerland, is the art of the protecting and financing people. So what will have a difference to you? If I say the banks in Novi Pazar have a growth of 20%, what does mean that to you? Will you have a better road, better education, better hospital, or what? Or it only means that the shareholders will have more money? That's the question that we are here discussing. So in terms of the council and what is the finance for? And from that, we are going to another searching for the new answers that we want to see. And this is what we are trying even in this conferences to see how we can come with something new, original, that we can create a new path and develop. And I always say you need to have a utopia, something that is beyond of our achievement, so that the reality where we are now can accordingly engineer it. So you need to be somewhere driven so that you can achieve it. But we constantly get lost in the reality, and we are trying to find, as we call it, patching, sorting things without creating the new original answer. I know the time is passing, I will just skip some of these things. I want to come to a few and I will stop here. So the main purpose is here that we need to start from our ontological perspective. Now, ontology is an anthropological term which means how do you see the worldview, from where it is coming. If I put the glasses of secularism, I will see the world as a secularist. And if I put the glasses of Islam, or whatever now source of ideology of Islam, then that will be my perspective. This is how I will see and analyze. So that's what we mean ontology in this way. So that creates the worldview towards the things, and hence worldview is the result of axioms, values, perceptions that we want to implement. That creates the social formation. So if I look into the context of Novi Pazar, I can say it's a quite conservative religious society. If I go to Sarajevo, I will have a different perception, because that is the result of the worldview, how you are creating the perception of the space. And hence, economy also comes as a result. So, and that will have a systems, how things are managed and organized within the society, which will lead to something called order or civilization. So that's why Islam presents a civilization in addition to the Christianity, Judaism, and so on. But in order to understand the civilization, the main factor in every single society is the mode of production, guys. So if I say that what are the modes of the production, we are looking into who owns what. So I am the capitalist, I provide the financing, I will get alpha. If you are my workers, employee, and there is a rent, which I'm paying on the raw materials and the machineries, this is another segment. Combining these three factors, this is the production. And that's what we call modes of production. Looking into any modes of the production, I can define this is the capitalist society. In the past, we've been socialist society. And now there is a question which comes to all of us, what will be the Islamic modes of production? And this is where is a missing part within the debate, because we are constantly locked into providing the legalistic understanding what is something black and white, instead of focusing what we want to achieve, because we currently halalizing the capitalism. That's where is the missing part, and hence these are the missing factors. Without going too long, I will just skip some of these guys. I know the time is the issue. So where we are standing in that sense, so we have a modernity which is result of the neoclassical universal, but we are all equal. Whether you are Jewish, Christian, Buddhist, doesn't matter, you are the end consumer who needs to buy and eat, and hence you will behave accordingly. For us, we are challenging that assumptions of the modernity. We say, but there is actually post-modernity perspective, or challenging the capitalism. They say, look, but maybe I'm not. Doesn't matter if the price of the pork goes to the zero and the price of the halal chicken goes up, we will not switch it. Because this is the result of some other perceptions which are coming from the other ontological reasoning, and hence that logical understanding of neoclassical economics does not apply in many cases. And that creates the whole perspective where the Islamic economics as a new theoretical perspective to analyze and try to understand the Muslim society comes into place, and hence there is what we call the break of the convergence. Most societies after the fall of in 1990s, the Russian complex, we were converging or becoming like all Western societies in its own spectrum, and hence that's what we call it convergence. What created break on the convergence is emergence of Islamic economics, which came with other. In addition to Islamic, there are other perspectives. There's also now a strong Jewish Islamic economic. There's also now Christian economics, Buddhist, Hindus, and other perspectives which are coming as a counter hegemony towards the neoclassical. To skip some of these, guys, I will be quick. One of the issues which I just want to come is the whole idea or perspective. It comes, what is the moral economy? It is a huge debate. There are many definitions of moral economy. The whole idea of moral economy, unfortunately, didn't come from Qura or Al-Azhar University. It came from somebody called Karl Polanyi, who is an English author, writing the transformation of British society from the old into modern. What are the consequences and implications that we have? That we are losing the trust, we are losing the ties, we are losing our own social identity which was existing and prevailing in the past. And in that sense, finance become one of the segments. Now, what are the main features of Islamic moral economy? These are the 7 factors. So embeddedness of finance in the real economy. Whether the finance as a tool, Islamic or none, have a real impact. It builds something. It creates the value tangible which we can see and observe. And hence that is the main unique features that we are looking for. Now, there's some other debates. I just want to come to this point. As you can see, in a logical understanding, we will say that 5 is always greater than 4. Yes, in a purely numerical number, but there will be sometimes, and this is the new understanding which comes from which perspective you look, that the 4 is greater than 5. Just imagine that we have a portfolio, which the portfolio number 1 actually gives you a return 5, which is greater than 4, and then the portfolio B will give you 4%. But in the other case, you have also a portfolio which is gives you 4, but it's very much environmental. It is very much society oriented. In that sense, it will prevail. The 4 will be greater than 5. So it doesn't mean always that the 5 5 is greater than 4 because it depends from which angle you are looking, and hence it will define the logic itself. And then the whole concept for defining Islamic economics now is going back to the basis to what we call it iqtisad. Bakr al-Sadr was one of the first pioneers who will use that word, and he will call it iqtisaduna, called our economy. He lived during the Saddam time. He was assassinated, but his book provides the foundations of development of economics as a term, which is called we call it iqtisaduna, which creating that middle path between the two sides, extravagance and misery. Now, whole purpose of this, without going into debate, and I will finish, I promise, is achieving the mizan. Now, this is the concept that is very much established in many Quranic verses, that the whole purpose of economics in the neoclassical is managing the resources between the scarcity and abundance. So you have many resources and you have many wants. Yeah, that is easy to manage it. But we are all have scarcity, so we all want to have more, and our budget constraints are limited. So how to manage that? That is the economic terms. But Islam doesn't see that. Actually, the whole purposes of resources is creating the balance. And it's not balance in financial world, it's also with environment. Extrapolating the resources beyond the needs to keep the growth is not maintaining design, and hence we have as a result the environmental damages and so on. So that is in a nutshell the axioms of Islam actually leading to create that. And that will be where I will stop. There's a long presentation. I will provide it if you want to know more. Thank you very much. So.
Zahvaljujem se profesoru Abdukiću. Sada pozivam direktora Međunarodne fondacije iz Velike Britanije, gospodina Mohameda Al-Sadira, da se obrati. Mr. Sadira, the stage is yours.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man ittaba bihi amma ba'd. I'm really honored to be among you today, and I really want to share my gratitude to the organizers, to Professor Bashirovic and Dr. Harris, Professor Abdukić. I will try to avoid to take long. Now I'll just try to put the ice, or what they call it, the cherry on the icing. So there are different ways of looking into Islamic finance and into the problem of economy and moral economy and all of that. One way of portraying the problem is pretty much trying to look at what's happening in the industry. I will talk about the halal tayyib industry or halal tayyib nexus. It's going to be pretty much just an extension of what Professor Abdukić has mentioned. The problem of Islamic finance, it's not pretty much the legal side. We know that for the past 50, 60 years, the main development in Islamic finance industry was on the legal side, on the Sharia compliance, on the halal side. However, we have seen that the economic problem has not been solved yet. So there is a problem within the solution that was provided for the past 50, 60 years of Islamic finance. And one of the discussions that I had with Professor Abdukić as well was whether Islamic banking has really served the purpose, the purpose of its existence. But we have seen that the records show that yes, the industry, the Islamic banking industry has reached $3 trillion across the globe. However, we see that there is a problem within the Muslim communities in terms of development. So what is the problem there? So I'm trying to take in order to understand really the concept, I will take the case study of food industry that will help us really see where things went wrong within the current practice and where it should go towards in the future, inshallah. So, why food governance now? Why should we talk about food governance? we have seen for the past few years, particularly since COVID, these images. We have seen empty shelves on supermarkets. This was quite a frightening experience in the UK. Because simply, if there is no food, there is hunger, and there is no alternative. This shows that, even if you take it within the financial sector, if you go now to the Islamic banking industry, pretty much very little people are reaching the criteria for getting funds. So within the banking charter, Islamic banking charter, because at the end of the month, Islamic banks are banks. And banks, in order to be regulated, they need to follow the banking charter. Banking charter puts very strict risk management framework. And this risk management framework eventually would consider everybody here as very risky for funding. So what is the problem? How to really look into this issue? We can, again, coming back to the case of the food security, we can see here that the majority of the global population now live in urban areas. We can see that the change, the shift happened in 2007. This is where majority of the people of the globe lives in urban cities now. What's the implication of that? This means that the majority of people are dependent on supply chain of food. If they fail, then people starve to death. Before, like we can see the next slide, throughout history, since the 15th century, majority of global population were rural, living in rural countryside. They produce, they eat. So if there is any war, anything, they wouldn't starve to death. However, we can see in the 19th century, this is where things started to transform drastically, where majority of people started living in urban cities, and this has really put so much pressure on supply chain. And unfortunately, supply chain as well, one of the problems is it's so polluting. If, for example, you have like a garden, you grow your food, you don't burn fuel in order to get the food into your plate. However, supply chain burns a lot of fuel in order to get from farms of production into your plate. Again, this added to the pollution that we have seen in the presentation of Professor Abdulgesh. We can see here as well that majority of the world are net importers. These countries in red, they are net importers of food, while those on green, they are net exporters. If you can zoom in, you can see that Bosnia is pretty much a net importer. I understand that we are here in Serbia, but Serbia could be seen here as a net importer or exporter of food. However, from a Bosnian perspective, there is a problem within their food security paradigm. Dominant arguments on food security. There have been a lot of debate in the literature about what really constitutes the problem within the food. So there are resilience and adaptability, whether the food system, because food system, we have to understand even from Islamic perspective that Allah has created the food system. When we interfered and engineered this food system, we have created a problem for the fitrah that Allah has created this food with. So resilience, sometimes there is an abuse of these the natural systems, natural food systems that eventually lead to the collapse of the ecosystem. It collapses, it doesn't really, it ends up, it doesn't really regenerate anymore. So, the argument is that, this system is resilient or not, adaptable or not, it adapts to the human activity or not. Types of resilience, engineering resilience, or socio-ecological resilience. There are resilience strategies, reformists versus transformationists. Reformists pretty much maintaining this agro-commercial system, but reform it in order to make it more sustainable, more eco-friendly, more of that. Transformationists, there are a lot of debate as well within the literature whether what is the best approach to food security. Is it we get back to pre-modern, when the majority of the people were plowing their land and getting these natural food systems, or so this is pretty much the transformationists. We want to transform into a completely new system. There are different aquaponics, for example. Permaculture is another way of, or another argument of the transformationalism. Circular economy as well, food sovereignty and food sustainability. We will try to focus on the presentation today on food sovereignty, food sustainability and food security. There are quite differences, subtle differences that we need to understand in order to see what really is required to really bring resilience for our food systems. Problematic trends within food security paradigm. We can see that across the board, even in universities and academic research, that neoliberalism and the hegemony within neoliberalism controls the academic output, because pretty much academics are economic actors. They need they receive funds in order to make research. This research really can reflect the neoliberalism of the food systems. So we can see that within the literature, hegemonic neoliberalism, you can see securitization, fear and inequality. We have seen some studies that really instill fear that if you don't really follow this model, then there will be chaos, there will be problems, and there will be fear of the unknown, fear of and fear, as they in politics are known to be a very easy way to sell anything. So if you want to sell something, if you don't take it from me, something else will happen. So so this again, you can see it within the food security paradigm. Greenwashing, we have seen as well. Greenwashing, when biggest example in this sense was Volkswagen, when they there was a scandal back in 2016 when they were showing that their emissions was within the certain limit, but it was pretty much programmed in order to avoid that. So we have seen that this is really happening within the food, as well the food security paradigm. Individualism and greed, again, hedonism is quite big as well. For those of you who know hedonism is pretty much trying to translate the world in pleasure terms. So we have seen a lot of incidents where, within the food security paradigm or discourse, where they, for example, La Tomatina festival in Spain, when they bring big lorries of tomato and start fighting with it. This is a wasteful behavior. We have seen a lot of similar behavior as well in the West. They play with food. However, from Islamic perspective, we have been trained, we grow up that we have to respect food and avoid that. But however, we can see that this is another problematic trait within the literature of food security. So let's talk about what really constitutes the Homo Islamicus discourse within the food security from Islamic perspective. We have to see it juxtaposed next to Homo sociologicus, Homo Islamicus, and Homo economicus. The Homo Islamicus is pretty much based on at the center Iman. We believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Tawheed, as Professor Bashirovich has referred to earlier. Then Islam really what governs our relationship to the world, and then Ihsan is pretty much the adding to the top or perfecting our practices and behaviors within the world. Thus, if we compare it to Homo Islamicus at the heart is pretty much hedonistic individualism. I am the center, as a human, I am the center of the universe. I consume whatever I can consume, whatever I want to consume. Capitalism is pretty much how it really governs my relationship with the food supply, and mass consumption is my aim, my goal. This is the end goal. So we have depiction here of the Homo Islamic rationalization. Halal, tayyib, halal. You have the halal, you have the tayyib, and the wasatiyya. Wasatiyya as well is a good tool to understand of when we approach consumption, we need to approach it with wasatiyya, with middle ground. We don't really go extreme in terms of consuming all what we can, or really consuming the least of what we can. Islam really promotes production more than consumption. However, everything has to be in balance. You have to really honor your body. You have to really feed it and nourish it. You cannot just do like what Hindu Babas who starve themselves for years. We don't do that. In Islam, we have to respect our body. We have to give it due course. Okay, and in terms of time, I don't want to take much time. I'll try to move forward with it. So we can see here that there are three main elements that really can bring more comprehensive approach to food in Islam, and that can imply as well for Islamic finance. How much time do I have left? A couple of minutes, okay. So food sustainability, food sovereignty, and food security. And from Islamic finance perspective, we need sustainability, we need security, and we need sovereignty as well. We can see that sometimes you have an Islamic finance solution that is, it might give you like engineering security. However, it doesn't give sustainability. You know that it will collapse. Later on, we have seen that happening in the Islamic banks industry. For example, Arayan Bank in the UK, they started with people have a good faith in it, and then when they started doing their business, eventually they lost they lost the trust of the local community, Muslim community in the UK, and eventually they went out of business, because simply they were focusing on one element rather than trying to really integrate all of these different elements within their products. This is, we'll try to avoid that because it's mainly for Islamic finance. However, in a nutshell, in conclusion, we need to really look into this, the halal tayyib dimension. We need Sharia compliance. This is the bare minimum. This is where we start with. However, this is not the end term. We have to really look into the tayyib. And for the past 5 years, the literature on halal tayyib has been growing. And I hope that the audience here as well would, and the fellow scholars would really take this concept forward. Thank you so much.
Dr. Mohammed, thank you very much for bringing up a very important topic of halal food industry. It's important to diversify beyond the focus on finance and banking that we have today. Zahvaljujem se dr. Mohamedu Sagiru na predivnoj prezentaciji, govoru o halal industriji, odnosno halal prehrambenoj industriji. Mi očekujemo uskoro dolazak muftije Dudića i predsjednika Savjeta Univerziteta dr. Korevića.